That's fine.
We'll do that week. I finally got my contacts straightened out so I can see. There you go.
Are you using
I do. That's yours. All right.
Yes.
Don't be mean.
No, about 3 minutes.
It's all that beard you've got now, isn't it?
Don't know.
That's what you got cocky, didn't you? Know, little boys get their hair cut and they just go crazy. They're just mean. So old men grow a beard and they go wild.
I'm assuming Jackie is.
And if you come in with a headband,
What, Jen?
it says Harley across the top.
Is
Then I'm going to know for sure.
Jennifer?
I'm calling your wife then.
Is Jackie going to
I'm
Zoom?
going to say, lock him up.
I texted her and she said yes, coming. So I don't know.
Okay.
I'm a bunch of cowards.
I don't hear my miss. Take a look.
I don't know what's going on. Well, this will end.
What? It's on
Right?
number 8.
My vet told me one time that you can do something.
I thought I had my contacts.
Ain't anything you can do about stupid.
That happens to me all the time.
I thought you were taking care of that yesterday.
It's like the whole
Oh, what they did, they took one away.
all the time, doing the same
And I've got
things in the
one
same
contact.
places with the same
So,
people.
and nothing in this
Different results. That's the definition of insanity. Which one is that?
And are you going to sit there one
Okay, if you're watching this live, Zoom at home. They haven't started the meeting yet. They're waiting for a board member to arrive.
I'm 3 and oh,
Meeting's supposed to start at 6, but they're running just a hair late.
Okay. Y'all ready?
Jack was logging on.
Okay.
yeah. Apparently they're gonna step the table, but I won't do. No. Well, yes, we are. Burns, fiddles, purple. Honey, baby.
Hey, hold on. Hey. Yeah. Ready?
Oh, I see her.
We will now call the Hawkins County Board of Education meeting to order, this being October the 1st, 2020 at 6 p.m. At this time, I'd like us to all stand and take a moment of silence, please. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to, would one of our student board representatives like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? It's on the spot.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Chris, I told our new board members. That was easy. Wait till next
Mr. Phillips.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Before I give a conflict of interest statement, since this is a new year for the board, I've been requested to ask that all board members state, if they have one, a conflict of interest and the nature of that conflict of interest. Or however you want to proceed.
I have none.
I have a conflict of interest. My wife is a substitute nurse for the school system.
I have none.
I have a conflict of interest. My son is principal at Mooresburg, and my nephew is principal at Carter's Valley.
I have a conflict of interest. My wife is a teaching assistant at Mount Carmel Elementary.
Okay. Those of you that acknowledge you have an indirect conflict of interest, do you acknowledge that conflict of interest for all actions and purposes of this meeting? And do you further acknowledge that all your votes will be in the best interest of the school system?
I do.
I do.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips.
Yeah, let the record reflect that all have done so.
Chairman, just making sure that Jackie,
Yeah, I was
trying, I have none.
okay.
okay. We've got it of record now. Thank you, Miss Jackie. And here's the new item on our agenda. It's board members' reports, and that is for anything a board member would like to speak on as far as things they've observed in the community, in their schools, or such as that. So if any board member would like to make a report at this time, the board would recognize you.
I'll make a brief report.
Go ahead.
Oh, just to commend the teachers for their work during this time. I know with COVID and everything going on, it's in the transition period of the 4-day work week, they've worked extremely hard. And with my kids in the elementary school there, I can speak to it as a parent. And I know that they're very appreciative right now based on the procedures and everything of the Friday virtual day, giving them a good time to do what's required of them as far as the protections that need to be in place. And just talking to the administration and the staff there at Mount Carmel, they're working extremely hard. I think we should just commend them. I know this is countywide too, so I would just speak to that and let that be our report.
Thank you. Any other board members?
Part of being a board member is legislative advocacy, and because I'm the Tennessee legislative representative, I try to work really hard in making sure that our representatives and senators, whether they're local, state, or national, don't forget that Hawkins County is here. And I quite often write letters to Marsha Blackburn, to Phil Rowe, Lamar Alexander, and I do get responses. But I have written them. Some of the things I've written them about lately are supporting the 2020 census so that every family can be counted and every child can be counted, because that's very important to us as a school system. I've written to them about the CARES Act and making sure that funding comes down to equally is distributed to our schools throughout the nation. Increasing federal funding, support for rural broadband, which as a rural school is so important to us because we have so many out there that don't have internet access. And especially with virtual classes now, I think that's really an important piece of legislature that they should share some funding for, especially us in rural districts. Increasing the funding for distance learning. As we are virtual, it's cost all school systems more money to go that way, and more money, more hard work, as our technology director can attest to. So those are just some of the things I've written to them about, and when I write, they always reply. So that's always very good to hear. I have one other thing.
Go ahead.
Okay. I've been thinking about this for a while, and I'm just going to share an idea tonight, or a thought that I have. We know that education is always evolving. It's always changing. But certainly COVID-19 this year has forced every school district to take a closer look at implementing new ways to save and new ways to serve our students and communities. One of our key changes this year is moving to a 4-day week to allow for deep cleaning on Friday. I've been thinking about how much money we could save by keeping on with the 4-day week. Not only in fuel costs, but energy costs at each one of our facilities. And I'm aware that we have a 180-day requirement that has to be met. But what if we, instead of 180 days, what if we asked for either 180 days or an hourly requirement for the year? What if we, as Hawkins County Schools, drafted a resolution and presented it to get our local legislators on board, presented it to the state education and State Board of Education, and asked them to look into changing the requirements for a school year, whereby we could go to a 4-day week and save money. We could save money not only on fuel, but our buses would definitely be running less, so we would be able to keep them longer. That's one way. Energy costs, but that was just an idea that I had floating around, and
Okay.
I didn't know if anybody had any thoughts about that or not.
I think you're right. If we were to look at something like that, I would. I like your idea of getting a committee together, coming up with some ways around or to stipulate the 180-day requirement, because as long as that's in place and that's the only minimum that we have in being creative with our instructional time, I think we're not going to be able to head in that direction or any creative direction. I think that this COVID situation has created an opportunity for us to have to think outside the box and have to be creative with how we get instruction from just a classroom setting to possible other ways depending on what's happening. I also think one thing that came up when you were talking is the fact that, and it goes along with what Mr. Boyd alluded to, our teachers have had to do a heck of a transition between just classroom instruction and then moving virtual and then coming back to, in some cases, doing both in the same instructional block.
Right.
So if you can imagine doing something that you normally do for years in front of a classroom, and Ms. Judy can attest to this as well, and then having to shift gears and having that recorded, and then having to edit that, and then having to rethink, well, if I do this over here, it's out of the view of my camera. If I do this, it's a hands-on activity for my classroom students, but my virtual students don't have that opportunity. All of those things factor in, and I think that that 5th day of collaboration, even though we're still instructing and we're pushing out virtual lessons, that 5th day does and currently gives our teachers some planning and collaboration time. So I'm excited to at least look at the option. I like the idea, the committee idea. If we got something together, I'd like to have teachers part of that. I'd like to have principals, board members, that type of thing, and see at least what we can do. It gives us a workable option in the future, if nothing else.
I think definitely what we've been through this year, our educational leaders are going to be more open to new ideas and, like you said, thinking outside the box than we've ever had, because we've had to all think outside the box and implement new ideas. So I think this is a really good time to do something like that.
Well, we have a workshop coming up, and why don't we take this idea to a workshop and go into more detailed discussion there?
Okay.
if the board's in favor of that.
I like that idea, Mr. Christian. I did send you an email as board chairman this morning about an idea I had to maybe extend the rest of the semester coincidentally along the same lines that Ms. Shedden is mentioning. So if it would be okay, we could add that as one of the talking points for the workshop.
I think it would be best to discuss that at a workshop, because I don't think we're prepared to debate that tonight.
No, it was just an idea.
Right, and that's the gist of board members' reports. Any other board member like to? Okay.
Okay. Last Friday, I had the opportunity to go by volunteer that I had not been by volunteer and saw the turf, and it is fantastic. It looks great. I had one little complaint. You know how people call you and complain about something, and it was that they got mud on it coming in because it was muddy on one end. And, you know, that's an act of God. I think we can't change everything. But today, my grandson left his lights on or whatever, and the car died. So Mama had to go and jump him off. And the paving at Cherokee, you know, the spots that have already been paved, it looks fantastic. So I am very well pleased with that. And the third thing that I wanted to say was about the teachers. And it goes on Debbie's idea, because I had already, and your idea, because it had already been in my mind, why can't we keep those 4 days at least till the end of the semester and then play on that? But we've already proven this. We had clinch last year. So we've got a guideline to already go by and know that it worked. But I really, to go back on McClure, I want to say what I know that the teachers are going through. And I got a text today, said, Judy, don't forget us. And like I'd ever forget a teacher, you know, I'm never going to forget them. But they're worried about, and I hope we do really think hard on this 4-day week, that we have the 5th day on virtual. The kids are tired, you know, they're wearing masks all week, and little kids, big kids. My the older grandson had a thing around him today, and I was proud of him because he had that on. I'm proud of you for having yours. I'm not close to anybody, but I've got my mask right here. And so I'm proud of you wearing yours. And that, wait a minute, let me see what I wrote down here that I said about pledge. And then as the fourth thing, I wanted to say that I wrote it down today so I could see what I said. I recognize how smart our teachers are. And basically it was because I was with Cash. You saw it too, I know, doing your grandchildren. And, you know, I actually picked up the phone and called teachers myself because I didn't know how to log in on something, and he didn't either. But that teacher called me back. The teacher called my grandson back. And I saw Cash sit at the kitchen table and talk to his 2nd grade teacher and say, you know, well, I like this. I like what you did. It wasn't the teacher saying it to Cash. It was Cash saying it to the teacher. I like what you did. And, you know, he's so gung-ho on learning at maybe in a little elevated way, but the teachers are doing that. You know, they're helping those kids to learn. So I'm proud of them and proud of what they do. And that's it. Thank you.
You're done.
I'm done.
Okay, thank you.
You don't want me to talk more either, do you, Chris? Well.
All right. Do we have anyone signed up for public comment? We do not. On our agenda is approval of the minutes from the September 3rd, 2020 board meeting. We have a motion.
Yes, baby.
Got a second? Is there any further comments or debate? If none, Ms. Jennifer, call the roll.
Boyd,
Yes.
Charles,
Yes.
Richardson,
Yes.
Braddock,
Yes.
Dick,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Trent.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Approval of outline and format of the agenda.
Make a motion.
We have a motion?
Second.
We have a second. Any further debate or discussion? If none, Ms. Jennifer, call the roll.
Grant,
Yes.
Evan,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Braddock,
Yes.
Christian,
Yes.
Charles,
Yes.
Boyd.
Yes.
The outline and format of the agenda is approved. And at this time, I will turn the meeting over to our director for recognitions.
Thank you, Mr. Christian. I would like to start with Mrs. Debbie Shedden, who would like to welcome and recognize our new student board reps.
Student board representatives from each of our 3 high schools, Clinch, Volunteer, and Cherokee. And it's a great opportunity for these kids to learn and to see how a school board works, and I'm very proud of them. It's not an easy task to become a school board representative. I'm just going to read a few of the requirements because it is pretty rigorous. They score a 19 or better on the ACT. They have a 3.0 GPA, no discipline referrals. They're in good standing of attendance, 5 days or less missed per school year. They have a petition signed by 15 fellow students, which must be completed and returned for consideration. They're a member of the rising senior class. They have 3 faculty recommendations. 1/2 of the student representatives shall be enrolled in I'm going to skip that one. That's really not a requirement. But anyway, as you can hear, they go through quite a rigorous evaluation to be able to be standing up here. So I would like to begin by introducing Maddie Live from Volunteer. She says she is very eager to take on this role. She's a straight A honor roll student in the Falcon Band, where she serves as head drum major. This is her 3rd year on the band leadership team. She's been a drum major for 2 years. She was flute section leader her sophomore year. And when she's not on the podium, you can find her helping with the Volunteer High School Key Club, of which she's been a member for 3 years. And she likes being able to give back to her community in many different ways. She's an active member of the Hawkins County 4-H Club. And she says that through 4-H, I was able to be a part of the Appalachian Youth Fair Board for 2 years. I'm also able to teach kids about agriculture through various events around the county. I hope to represent my school well and continue to better our community. I am thankful for the opportunity to represent Volunteer through this position, and I can't wait to get started. So if we could give a round of applause here. Next, student board representative is from Clinch. His name is Dalton Seal. He's 17 years old and a senior at Clinch, and he has attended Clinch since kindergarten. He has a 3.89 GPA and has taken dual enrollment classes at Walter State. He's currently ranked 1st in the senior class. He's played basketball since the 6th grade. And he says, after I graduate high school, I plan on attending a 4-year college majoring in biology. When I graduate from college, I plan on going on to medical school to become a pediatrician. So very, very aspiring things to do. And let's welcome him. A representative from Cherokee, and unfortunately he is ill tonight and not able to be with us. but we'll hear about him at our next board meeting. Thank you.
Our second item of for recognition this evening goes to a gentleman in the back of the room there, and I would like to bring him up. Mr. Jim Point, please come forward. He doesn't know what this is about, so I'm going to read this. A little while ago, I approached Mr. Point, being new here in the district, and we had a situation that I asked him to assist us with, and that was to perform a detailed and exhaustive title study for a portion of our Hawkins County property. And this issue was dealt with in the past, and for various reasons, a side effect was that a lot of relationships were destroyed or strained in the process of deciding who owned this property and what to do with it effectively. The parties involved were very eager to resolve this, but the relationship issue was also equally as important. When I met with Mr. Point, I told him that I had two goals, and the first was to identify, obviously, the historical facts and make a determination regarding the property, but also to restore relationships with those involved. Mr. Point was instrumental in both initiatives. Along with that determination, he donated his time toward these efforts, and due to his unwavering support of Hawkins County schools. I wanted to publicly thank him, not only for making an accurate and historical determination regarding our issue, but for supporting and enhancing our efforts to rebuild those relationships. And I know Chris was involved and Judy was involved in that process. I want to thank both of you as well. But kudos to Mr. Point. It's not often that we're able to partner with a community member who is willing to donate his time and do such a good job in doing so. So I wanted to publicly recognize you and thank you for your efforts.
Woo-hoo, Jim Bob.
That was Jackie. That was Jackie.
Who goes back? Thank you.
Thank you.
I know. I just sent him a message
Mr. Christian, of what I'm going to say,
saying
but
that
I appreciate your support.
you can't hear people
in
if they're
that
not at the
process,
mic.
And I would be remiss if I didn't thank Mrs. Trent for bringing the parties together and recognizing that we had an obligation to move in a certain direction and resolve some things that were left unresolved for various reasons. And I have a good relationship, working relationship with the parties that were involved in this to this day. And as a matter of fact, one of them came by my office the other day and even in spite of COVID, gave me a hug. So it's been a good outcome. And I wanted to button that up and say thank you to you both for your involvement on that as well.
Well, let me say thank you, Matt, too, because you made that process easy. When I called you and said, we need to do this, you were gung-ho the whole way and very professional, very just cordial and kind during that process. So I understand why they feel the way that they do about you, and I know how they feel about me. So we did a good job. You did.
I don't have a clue what you're talking.
I do.
Mills Gap School property.
The street.
I thought that thing was built months.
It was.
We were set to recognize Mr. Point several months ago because of COVID and going online. We pushed it back. So wanted to take the opportunity to do so publicly, though.
Any other recognitions?
No, sir.
Okay. Next on our agenda would be delegations. Do we have a representative from HCEA? How about a representative from the Education Committee of the Hawkins County Commission? None being there, that brings us to reports.
I don't have anything official other than the listed items except for one item, and that is I wanted to talk a little bit about our COVID-19 numbers. There have been several concerns about the number of probable versus positive cases and the number of quarantined. And I think that there are members of the public and even our own teaching staff, unless we're very clear and concise in our communication, that get those three things confused. The positive case is just that, an identified positive COVID case. They've had a test and we have to respond to that. Probable case is they are exhibiting symptoms or feeling poorly and we have to respond to that. Quarantine is a result of a positive case and removing those that have symptoms or who have been identified as having close contact with a positive or probable case. So, because we have approximately 70 plus students in quarantine, that does not mean we have 70 plus positive cases or probable cases. We are sitting at, from the start of the school year back to the first part of August to current day, 22 probable or positive cases that we've had to respond to. That has resulted in 70 plus students that are currently quarantined. At the end of this week, we'll be down another probably 25. Well, no, we just released 25. That quarantine ended on the 30th. We'll be down another 3 or 4 quarantined students and or staff. So we are getting through this the best we can. I just wanted to clarify that if you see numbers that say we're in the 70s of quarantine, that does not mean we have 70 probable or positive cases. There's a big difference between those. And I wanted to thank Becky Little, who is our district nurse, and she is coordinating our efforts with Hawkins County Schools and those of the health department. I also want to publicly thank the health department, who have been Johnny on the spot with getting back and communicating with us, identifying those close contacts and taking the appropriate actions. Every step of the way, they've been right with Mrs. Little and making those tough decisions. We have made efforts to personally call every single student that we've had to remove from instruction, whether they're being removed because they are deemed a close contact or those positive probable cases as well. So it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. I want to thank the school nurses who are monitoring the situation daily, hourly, having a lot of answering a lot of questions from parents and community members who are calling in, and as well as our teachers, our administrators, and our support staff as we're dealing with this.
You know, approximately of that 70, about how many of those are staff?
I do. We have had number of staff who have been quarantined at any point. We're looking at 18 plus at this point. And unfortunately, this past week, I would say we've had probably 5 to 7 teachers, but we are getting them back as soon as possible. But our hands are tied when it comes to them either being a close contact or a probable positive case. There is a timeline that we are obligated to follow for safety's sake.
And do we have teachers that chose not to come back to school, that had underlying conditions, that were afraid to be in the classroom? And can I ask what we're doing with that?
It depends on the situation, but we have had a handful. I think off the top of my head 4. And in several of those cases, there are underlying severe health issues that would prevent them from coming back. Where possible, we are allowing them to virtually teach. And in some cases, there have been a couple of retirements because of it.
So when the children are in the classroom and there is out quarantined or self-quarantined, who's in the classroom with the kids if she's doing virtual?
We are being.
Because I know you're on top of it.
Being very creative with that, and in most cases, partner teachers take on those assignments in providing that instruction virtually for
Great
those
job.
teachers. We decided early on in our initial planning that we would not put that burden on a substitute to come in and teach virtually. We have hired substitutes to facilitate supervision of classes while the virtual teaching is being done from home and sent to the classroom, or vice versa, depending on the situations. But we're having to be very, very creative in that. And we're trying to keep the instruction going in light of everything else. But
It just amazes me
Are
what
these cases
we're doing.
spread throughout the county? They're not just mainly one end or the other? Or?
we've had, that's an interesting question. We've had more up at the Cherokee end of the county than we have at the opposite end, at volunteer. I will say that in our discussions with the health department, these cases at Cherokee have not been linked. They've been independent. They've been identified as either being exposed at home. There's no correlation between the students or staff members who are identified. But I will say that, you know, one group of staff that I left out of this scenario is our custodians. They are flat out working. They are cleaning. They're deep cleaning on Fridays. They're doing everything they can to assist in making sure that we're doing what we need to do.
Is there a breakdown between the probable and positive, or is that? And I'm naive about the HIPAA, regulations, honestly, but I didn't know if that was something that was broken down.
No, they're handled identically. The health department treats a probable as a positive, and we deal with it the exact same. So of that 22 that we're looking at now, in some cases we don't know if it's identified for sure positive. In some cases we treat it and we react initially, and then we may find out after the fact, after testing, that they are positive.
Good. We'll go on to the Director of Schools report. And that would be approval of the consent agenda. It would be A 1 through 5.
So moved.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Is there any further discussion or debate? If none, Ms. Jennifer, call the roll.
Boyd,
Yes.
Carl. Yes. Kristen,
Yes.
Yes.
Eden, yes.
Trent?
Yes.
Motion is approved. Item B, approval of purchases over $5,000, 1 through 6.
So moved.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Is there any further discussion or debate? If none, Ms. Jennifer, call the roll.
Trent?
Yes.
Eden?
Yes.
Hicks?
I'm sorry. Yes.
Craddock? Yes.
A lie.
Kristen?
Yes.
Carl?
Yes.
Boyd?
Yes.
Motion is approved. And that brings us to unfinished business.
We got C.
Wait a minute. See, oh, I put a check mark too soon. Sorry. Approval of budget amendments 1 through 14.
I make a motion.
We have a motion.
Second.
McClure had the second.
Yeah.
Is there any further discussion or debate on item C?
Yeah, just simple question. I noticed looking at a lot of these different things, it says hold on a minute. To make appropriation for 2019-2020 carryover funds for Title I. That's the first question. Some of that's a lot of money. And do we do that every year?
No, sir. A lot of it is due to the closure and the fact that we weren't operating a school from March on. So a lot of the plans and the identified expenditures weren't realized. So we moved that into savings, moved it to this year.
Okay. The other thing was like these other things that were not actually a part of our original budget. I realize they're all, yet it's still a concern. Yes, these are the things that, if this is the right term, this was money thrown at in the whole situation that wasn't anticipated to begin with.
In some cases, yes. In some cases, we did see additional monies coming in. In some cases, once we got the actuals from the closure of last year and then realigned the budget that you all approved over the summer, there was a difference and we added that difference back in. There's also grants in there that we did not have the prior year. There are, let me look for an example.
That's okay. I understand. I just want to make sure that I understand.
Sure.
When I read that, there may be others in there that I don't know what I'm talking about most of the time, but and this is just an example. I'm not trying to pick out anything. This is just something I noticed. On the very first amendment on 141 general purpose school funds, where we're doing an amendment for 1.7 million or $1,071,784, and this is just one line on there, and this is not. It has nothing to do with anybody, but number 10 down there, it shows an appropriation or a donation of $450, but on that line right below it, there is a $550. And I'm just curious. I couldn't find that $550 in the revenue. Maybe I just overlooked it. If somebody can tell me where it is.
That's funny that you mentioned that, because Melissa and I were going over this earlier, and she stated that she did not put that as a breakout item beyond that point, but it is reflected in the total. So I can send that clarification back out, but we literally talked about it this afternoon.
That's fine.
I will say that we did get 2 donations, and you brought up the $450. We had some donations that weren't earmarked for anything in particular. That $450 represents one of those. So we asked the donor, and they said use it wherever. So we have put it where we needed it. And in this case, a lot of technology needs, a lot of upgrades needed to support our growth of technology. And you'll see that that's reflected in the budget. But you're absolutely right. And what's funny about that, Mr. Hicks, is Melissa said, Mr. Hicks will catch that.
Well, the thing, man, and honestly, I look at them simply for my own information. I want to make sure that nobody else looks at these and asks me why that's not there.
Well, and I thank you for that. And what I will say at this, because Melissa and I just talked about it this afternoon, I will say that I'll send out a clarification to you all so that you see where that 550 is accounted for in the overall total.
Well, I just, and that's the whole point.
Matt,
We have so much money and trying to take care of all of the issues, and you go down through there, and I want to make sure that you're doing it right.
I appreciate it. Melissa, sorry, go ahead.
That 550 is part of the $47,357, where I told you I left number 10 off under the revenue 46511.
So Mr. Hicks, on that second page of 141, yeah, it lists a series of numbers 4, 5, 7, 8, and 9. 10 was left off there, so that's where it would factor back in. Thanks, Melissa.
Well, that, there's a whole lot of other questions that I could have made, but I wasn't going to because I'm sure.
Let me ask you a question since you brought that up. Melissa changed the format and she put the rationale right in the line items instead of referring that down to the end of the budget.
I see.
Is that
that's fine.
Work for everybody?
if that's easier for her, it's more understandable for me.
Okay, really, as long as, because when you get down to the bottom of it, the revenues and the expenditures is what really jumps out at you.
I appreciate that, and Melissa can attest that she said those words. Mr. Hicks will find that $550.
So we have a motion, we have a second. Is there any further debate or discussion? If none, Ms. Jennifer, call the roll.
Boyd,
Yes.
Charles,
Yes.
Christian,
Yes.
Braddock,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Pringle.
Yes.
The motion is approved. Now we're to unfinished business, and I don't think we have any at this time. So under new business, it's on our agenda for the RMS parking lot paving. That's where we sold the piece of property at Rogersville Middle School. So Seth, if you'd like to give,
I have Mike for the.
Shannon and I looked at the property data information online, and we were looking at the possibility of the parking lot that's connected behind the Dollar Tree, but I think that portion was sold to the Dollar Tree. So the only land that we have available is if you pull in to RMS on the left, there is a short section of parking lot with a grass area behind it with the football field to the right. That would be the area that we would pay, try to relocate the dumpsters there so that we get that money to pave that section.
That was, I think, when we talked about that originally, however many years ago it was when we brought it up, that was the idea then. Where the gravel area is between the football field and those houses.
And it's grass now, but we think that there may be a gravel base.
Well, there's gravel under there, I guarantee you.
Which will make the process easier for the paving. So we may look at trying to extend that and pave more. And if we can, Shannon and I also talked about there's a roadway that comes up off the back side of the property that comes out of the softball field that would connect to that lot. There's like a street right there. If we can do a lot of favors.
now, if I'm not mistaken, this is something I think this board approved to do when we voted to sell the property. At the time of the sale, this money would be used for this purpose.
Yes.
So therefore, I don't think we need a vote of approval. It's already been done. So I would ask that you report back to this board through our director or maybe next month to see where we're at.
The only thing would be is if it exceeds the cost. I mean, and I know because I know paving is expensive right now, very expensive.
I don't know the exact number for per tonnage right now, but we've looked at a couple options. We have some people give us some ballpark figures if I can get those information.
Because we just did some at our church. It's not cheap.
And knowing that if this is something that we need to move forward with, I want to throw this out to the board. Getting colder weather, it's hard to get pavement. I think you can get it till December 1st, probably. So if you could keep the board posted as to what kind of numbers there are, and if we need to take action as a board because due to weather constraints, I would like to hold that.
Well, do we still have paving going on?
We do. At Cherokee right now, they're still paving.
We still got paving going on,
yeah.
So we got a paving outfit paving for us right now. Have they looked at it?
That's who we've got coming. They're coming. If they've not already looked at it, they're going to look at it first thing Monday. I know that they've had some rain delays this week at Cherokee. Their process there, but that's who that we have contacted right now. But I can get those numbers to you, and hopefully we can know at least a ballpark by Tuesday for the work.
Yeah, because if it goes over, I like what Mr. Hicks suggested, just.
We'll have to do something.
We'll have
to do something. I mean, there's no doubt we'll have to do something.
Yeah.
Line item number 10 on the back page of the budget 141. Page 2 of that is 84,350. That's the proceeds from the sale of that property. So Melissa already has that in the capital outlay budget ready to go.
Okay. All right. Any questions?
Well, you know, the only other action we could take possibly if we think it's necessary to do an executive approval motion.
If it went over the.
Well, even to go ahead and, you know, as a, I guess even for Laura to include him in the process of approving, go ahead and accept whatever that cost is, from the estimates that we get. If we think that that's good enough, if you guys think it's good enough, go ahead and let them do it.
I think the only item, I think Mr. Hicks is right. The only item would be the price, because we took motion on, you all took motion, this was prior to my time, May 3rd, 2018, states that Brandon Williams from the maintenance department back then informed the board about the property. And I'll skip down. Motion made by Chris Christian to list the property, and the proceeds from the sale of the property would be used to pave the parking lot located to the left of the school near the football field. So it's even identifying the same area we're talking about.
So I think you would put that in the form of a motion to grant executive approval when we get the numbers, if it exceeds the amount that we got for the property. At the end.
Well, I think what we do is, whether it doesn't matter whether it exceeds it or not, we just. I think even though we went through that process up to now, I mean, how long it's been since what, 2018? What was the date on that, Mr. Hickson?
May 3rd, 2018.
Yeah, since 2018. And I'm, you know, all of the, at that particular point in time, I'm sure the cost wasn't nothing near what it is now, especially with all that's going on, because everything went sky high. And I think that we just, like, under the circumstances, if we need it for parking, we need to go ahead and do it. But I think more than anything is if we have more than one estimate on it, that somebody's got to make a decision on which one we're going with. So, that would be something we could do through executive approval, to take the best, lowest bid or whatever, and move forward. Go ahead and get it done through executive approval rather than wait until the next board meeting and do it.
Mr. Hicks, along those lines, we have found out that W&L has the county's bid, so we could piggyback off their bid for any type of paving that we.
I know. I realize that.
Okay.
I wish our church did.
Okay, so in short, I think that is the board good with granting executive approval to move forward with the project?
I'll make that in the form of a motion that we grant executive approval to go ahead with the paving project at Rogersville Middle School, with whatever's necessary to get that done.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion or debate?
I'll just add that I'll gladly send the information once Seth and Shannon get that. I'll keep the board informed via email, so you know the exact cost of that before we take the executive action.
Okay. Any further discussion or debate? If none, Ms. Jennifer, call the roll.
Hoy.
And I'll just say, you know, in this project, I'll just defer, so I will vote yes. Okay, so based on not knowing, you know, it already being voted on, and so yes.
Charles. Yes. Christian.
Yes.
Reddick. Yes. Hicks.
Yes.
Eden.
Yes.
Grant.
Yes.
I might add, though, that what we're doing is we just gave executive approval. We didn't do that in the original motion. I think in the original, if you go back and read all that real close, originally we just said that that's what we would use the money for.
Yeah, it says the proceeds will be used for.
Right,
Yeah.
so that designated those funds. Now, what if it hadn't been but $25,000?
Correct.
Right.
Right. See, so we would have had to come back and really take some action then, because I'm sure it would have cost more than that. That's all that was.
Dated 5-year.
capital project. Thank you.
Well, I don't know. Oh, you ain't got a thing to worry about.
everything before we got it. Thank you. Keith.
We can keep going.
Okay. The stapled copy is obviously our 5-year plan. And then I also made you a copy of our updated phase 4 plan. And I like to keep both of those up to date at the same time. Anything done in red has already been completed. So back in 1920, we did everything except the board tabled the quench second water filter. And then green right now in 2021. Obviously CHS paving still there. We have completed volunteers paving in the turf. Carter's Valley, the gym roof coating. We do have the materials already on hand, and we're going to do that, the labor in-house. Those in gray are in the design phase currently. We're planning on doing the 2 sets of bleachers at St. Clair and Hawkins Elementary this year. And then the exterior doors are also on the books as well. We did add, we added the Bulls Gap section of the roof. It's the last section that needs to be re-roofed out there. It's the oldest section, which would be right behind the office that is wrapped around the gym. And we're having some major leaks out there right now, which we're fixing as we go. But if we can get that re-roofed, it'll alleviate a lot of those problems that we're having. I do want to add that on the last page, on the 3rd page, in the blue, those items are priced based from the training performance contract. So we kind of put those off to the side right now so that we have those fixed for us as well.
I got a question, just to follow up. A few years ago, we were touring schools in Carter's Valley Elementary, the gym. We had water coming in from the outside. It was the downspout. Are you familiar with that? And it's been a number of years ago.
I'm not familiar with that, but that is being done probably here within the next week. We have the materials to spray that entire room.
This was the gutter downspout.
The actual downspout.
Yeah, I don't think they were draining correctly just from over the years.
I've not heard of any problem since I've been on with the maintenance as far as that issue.
Okay.
But that may have been taken care of, Christian. The biggest thing to keep in mind is that this is a fluid document that changes based off. I mean, it's changing rapidly.
Yeah. We're supposed to do the guy.
Good.
Other than any questions that anybody may have, and if I know Shannon could not make it this evening, Seth is here, but if there's anything that we don't know tonight, we can get you.
Okay, and I would like to reserve the right to, at our workshop, if somebody's got some questions, we can take it up there.
Sure. Yeah, you can look it over and jot down any questions you may have, and we'll address it at the workshop.
Okay, so that was item number 2 under new business, and I put in item number 3 if there's no other new business. And my new business is this: I would like to refresh our memories of the upcoming meetings. What do we have coming up? workshop,
I mean,
any kind of meeting.
no.
The 5th.
Oh,
September the 5th and October 6th.
And the 6th is at 5.
Hey,
For those of you,
sorry.
Judy, that show, those of you that show up on the wrong time.
Jackie's asked to repeat that, please.
Yeah, I couldn't hear the first comment.
Judy, we have a board workshop on Tuesday, October 6th at 5 p.m. And our November board meeting is the 5th.
It's because they're coming forward.
My name is Jackie. That's okay.
is there anything else before this board?
I have one question. I got a call this week from a concerned parent, and I directed them, I hope, to the right person. But the question, and I just wanted the answer myself. Is the Zen education project part of our curriculum? Have you ever heard of it?
I've not even heard of it, but I will look at it.
Good. I'm glad, because this parent was tremendously upset about it, and I've done a lot of research on it. Not only would I be upset about it, I'd be ready to go back to the battlefield.
I will look into it and I'll let you know.
Well, take a look at it. It's really something. Zen, Z-I-N-N, education project. And I told the person, I said, I would be, after I went and done some research and I said, I would not begin, I would hope that we would not go there.
Is Beth, are you near your computer? I know you're online, but are you able to hear this? Or do you know offhand if you're listening to this and you're within reach?
Yes, I am. I have never heard of it. I don't know anything about it, and
If she hadn't heard of it, it don't exist.
My understanding is it started in the 3rd grade. From what I've read about it online and whatever else, there's tons of information about it.
I'm pretty sure that we haven't taken on anything new. We're just doing the best we can to do what we got to do this year.
Well, it actually pertains to the changing of history. Is what it has to do with, if you really want to know.
I'll look into it and just make sure that it's not part of anything we've adopted. But as Beth said, we're struggling to stay afloat with what we've got on our plates right now. I don't see anybody taking on anything extra.
Well, it really, from what I understand, it really is an extra. It's an integration.
Gotcha.
It's just an integration into the curriculum. It's not anything extra.
So, and you say that it's a revisionist history movement?
Absolutely.
Well, there's a lot of, there's so much, it's so complex as to everything that it's addressing. You just got to take a look at it yourself.
Okay. Right.
I don't want to get it. To me personally, it's tremendously controversial, but to somebody else, it may not be.
Yeah.
I'm not going to try to make up somebody else's mind on it, so just go take a look at it. I've spent time looking at it. And it's not one of those things that you just say, oh, well, that never will happen,
Gotcha.
Motion to adjourn.
We're adjourned.
I was getting ready to.